1992 was a fantastic year for Game Boy. Let's check out just some of the games that came out for the Game Boy in 1992. In 1992, you're going to see a lot of familiar names of games and movies and TV shows, including Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. Yeah, it was based on a movie, but this one's based on the cartoon. You actually play the role of Wilbur, of all people. This is the guy from the cartoon who was always stuck to his parachute. He's like dragging it around and stuff. Interesting enough, I didn't play this game a whole lot, but I like that you have multiple like attack moves you can do, and look like you're trying to collect the baby tomatoes. Like the bigger tomatoes, when you attack them and they turn into smaller ones, you can pick those up. And you also have some other weapons you can pick up too, but you just kind of, attack your way and jump, and you pick up these items too. Kind of fun with the select button. If you hold select, you start skateboarding. That's kind of interesting. You can pick up this item here, and then when you push select while falling down, you'll have your parachute. So, a lot of things going on for this game. For a Game Boy game by THQ back in the day, it's actually kind of a fun game to check out. Unlike the NES Beetlejuice for the Game Boy is based on the cartoon. And this one is a whole lot better than the NES one. If this was the version, if this Game Boy version was the Beetlejuice we got on the NES, I think a lot more people would have liked it. This one's actually kind of playable. Just looking at the graphics, listening to the music, I believe it's by Rare without doing any of the research. As usual. I'm pretty sure this game was by Rare. But as Beetlejuice in the game, you have to kind of exorcise the demons that have taken over random household things. And as you work your way through this game. Very cool. It's actually kind of a fun game. We finally get Gradius for the Game Boy. Well, and you said there was an earlier game too. There was Nemesis. And the first time I played Nemesis, I was like, you can't fool me. This is Gradius. Well, Gradius, the Interstellar Assault, is Nemesis 2 in Japan. So yes, Nemesis is also Gradius. It's all part of the same universe. The very first thing you do is fly away from the ship. And good luck doing it, because this first part's actually kind of hard to maneuver to get where you need to go. Yeah, this just capturing my own footage here took me a couple of times. But once you get through it, then it turns into more of the Gradius you remember. You can shoot your way through the corridors, you got your items that you can pick up, and you choose which weapons. You choose how to power yourself up. Maybe start with a couple of speeds, or if you want to do the twin shot or the laser. Whatever you want to do. It's another Gradius type game for the Game Boy. It plays really well too. Snow Brothers Jr. That's right. I wasn't as always gung-ho in the Snow Brothers games. You look at it and you're like, oh, it's like a bubble. Well, it is. And it's not bad. Just playing a game like this, I would rather just play Bubble Bobble, or Bubble Bobble 2, or Parasol Stars, or even Rainbow Islands. This one's not bad. Oh no, not another Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Oh no, it's from LJN? I'm here to tell you, this game's actually not terrible. This game's actually pretty much playable. So the first part of the game is you're here, and you have to destroy these satellite radar things that's going on. The problem is you find out later on that you need to destroy them in a certain order for you to move on through, to get to the future stages and all that. So out of all of the Terminator games, once again, we finally get a Terminator 2 game. There's been a few of them at this point. And the one for the Game Boy is the best one, really? Well, I don't know. I think it's not the best game ever, but it's a lot better than the other ones. Adventure Island. But when you play it, you're like, this isn't Adventure Island, this is Adventure Island 2. Why is it calling it Adventure Island? Well, there was a first one that we didn't get, so our Adventure Island for the Game Boy is their Adventure Island 2. Haven't done the video on it yet, but our Adventure Island 2 for the Game Boy is their Adventure Island 3. However, Adventure Island 2 is a still super fun game. Never mind that it's just called Adventure Island or whatever. You'll figure it out when you play it. And it's super cool. Oh, how's this for an opening cinematic here? Not a whole lot of Game Boy games have little openings like this. I want to pinch the face. This is Blaster Master Boy. Blaster Master Boy. Well, it's just kind of like the overhead corridor part of Blaster Master with a lot more Bomberman, or maybe even Bomber King. What was that one game called? What was that? Robo Warrior, that's what I'm thinking of. Maybe a little bit more like that. But it's just, you have the corridors here, and you can bomb the blocks. You can also use that to attack the enemies as well, or blow them out of the way. And grab some items and stuff like that too. Different bombs you can use throughout the game as well, so you'll get different bombs along the way. It's just another bombing type game, and they happen to cross over with the Blaster Master series. Nothing wrong with that. Mega Man 2. Now, Mega Man 2 was my favorite, probably for nostalgia reasons, my favorite Mega Man game for the NES. So I was really excited to play Mega Man 2 for the Game Boy when it was finally released. And yeah, it's similar enough. You only have 4 robot bosses you can choose from at the beginning from this Mega Man, and then after you beat these guys, then you have 4 more. But the 4 more aren't from Mega Man 2. They're from Mega Man 3, which is interesting. But more on that later. In the meantime, it's just more Mega Man on a Game Boy. Cool to see. Good to have the option. Star Trek, this is their 25th anniversary edition. Different from the NES one, completely different. So you get your map and you got to go to the other side, but you have to choose how you're flying through all of this debris and stuff. When you get to there's an asteroid field, and you got to avoid the asteroids or shoot them down. And sometimes we'll get this little sparkly thing that'll kind of warp speed you a little bit through the course here. If it's not asteroids, it might be like Romulan ships. Romulan, that's correct, right? Romulans, yeah. I don't know. Got a Tiny Toon Adventures game on here. This is the first one. This is Bab's Big Break, I believe it's called. And for a game like Tiny Toons, just like the NES, the Game Boy version plays extremely well. So if you love cartoony platformer games, always a popular genre for the NES, you're going to love this one. If you missed over it or skipped over it before, not too late to check it out, man. It's actually pretty sweet. You might want to check it out. Nail and Scale. So we've talked about some games that maybe you've heard of or IPs you've heard of. Nail and Scale, something unique, something different. Kind of a simple get to the end of the maze and go through the door. Congratulations, you're on to the next stage. But your gimmick is you have like these nails and stuff that you can use to get to different areas. You can use it to defeat some enemies. It might be worth checking out. Nail and Scale came out in '92. Super Hunchback. There was an old arcade game, and I mean old, it was like 1982, 1983, something like that, called Hunchback. This is not that Hunchback. I wish it was. This one is more you play as a Quasimodo type character, and you gotta ring the bell at the end of this stage, and that's how you go through. Short stages, get to the end, ring the bell, there you go. Super Hunchback, '92 Game Boy Classic. Batman Return of the Joker. I'm here to tell you, to your face, well, across the YouTube screen, that this Batman Return of the Joker should have been the Batman sequel that we got for the NES, also by Sunsoft, and I'm telling you, if you loved Batman for the NES, just the classic, Batman game for the NES, one of the best. This game plays a lot like that. Not exactly like that, but a lot like that. Still with some great graphics for the time. You can still do the triangle jump thingy, and if you tap up, you got your grappling hook, which is super sweet. That's going to save you in a pinch a lot of the time. There are other items you can pick up. You can pick up, batarangs and stuff like that too. But if you haven't played it yet and you love Batman for the NES, Batman Return of the Joker, I get that wrong every time. Batman Return of the Joker is definitely worth checking out. Man, I wish we would have had this for the NES. I think a lot of people would have loved it. You ever play Night Quest? Well, on the Game Boy, you kind of had to look long and hard. Stop. You have to look long and hard for RPG-style games. You'd figure that there would have been more for the Game Boy, but maybe because the batteries didn't last as long, I don't know. But this is a turn-based RPG. When you make your way through, you can see I like it when any game that you can see the enemies on the ground, so you can try to avoid them or attack them. And then once you do attack them, then it goes to that kind of turn-based style of an RPG, and that's what you're going to get with Night Quest for the Game Boy. Spanky's Quest, you know what's funny? I know it looks like a kid's game, but it's one of my favorite Super Nintendo games. It really is. And Spanky's Quest on the Game Boy plays very similarly. It's not exactly the same. Not exactly the same, but the same idea where you create the ball and you bounce the ball in your head. The more you do that, the more the ball changes. It does not turn into a sports ball like it does in the Super Nintendo game, but it still has similar attributes, depending on how long you make it bounce on your head, or if the ball just hits them, it'll just paralyze them for a moment. I do like Spanky's Quest. I like kind of like these action puzzle games like this. Wave Race. Now, this is true. Like 4 years before Wave Race 64, which was the first Wave Race game I think most people played, was on Nintendo 64. Nintendo did make Wave Race. This was the first Wave Race in '92 on the Game Boy, and it plays. You know what's funny for mechanics, as far as like gameplay mechanics go? It's supposed to be not the greatest controls because you're in the water. And they did a good job of doing that, going through these laps as a water racing game, if that makes sense. So very cool to see, especially even back then. 92 is the birth in the US for Kirby. We have Kirby's Dreamland, the first of what's going to become several of the Kirby games so early that you cannot absorb their powers yet. That didn't come until Kirby's Adventure. So in the meantime, you can play this game. You can swallow them and then just shoot them out, and that's your weapon. But you can't, like, you know, swallow them and then absorb their power. That didn't exist in this game yet. But a lot of the other Kirby staples, like the music, like the stars, like a lot of the sound effects, are still the same in this very, very first one. So it's still a super fun game and definitely worth checking out. We have WWF Superstars 2. We covered Superstars in the last one. The other one was based more on like WrestleMania Challenge. This one's based more on Steel Cage Challenge. Got 6 wrestlers you can choose from the time. I'll go ahead and do a Steel Cage, and I will be the Mountie, just because. I miss my friends in Canada. Can't wait to return. And it plays like that style. Not the best wrestling game, but at the time, as a WWF fan, you just played all the WWF games you could. You just had to. DigDug came out. I talked about this recently, where DigDug is fantastic, one of my favorite arcade games of all time, but grab the classic Game Boy version because there is new DigDug. And yeah, you can play the classic arcade game too, but new DigDug is DigDug Plus. You know, it's an extra version of DigDug. This is the DigDug 2 we should have got instead of the other DigDug 2, although I do like the other DigDug 2 as well. This one, you still have the digging underground part, you have the enemies in your way and everything, but instead of just killing all the enemies to move on to the next stage, you have to pick up the keys. And then when you get all 3 keys, the door opens up, and that's what makes you move on to the next stage. DigDug, it's just called DigDug for the Game Boy, but in DigDug is new DigDug. So check out DigDug for the Game Boy, you'll find this game. Toxic Crusaders, you cannot go wrong with anything Trauma. Toxic Crusaders, this one, like Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, based on the cartoon. And it was a fun cartoon. I didn't watch a lot of it, but I liked it okay. Major Disaster here, sounds good to me. And it's just a basic kind of like run and gun and style game here. Classic Game Boy style game here. Toxic Crusaders, sure. We had Bionic Commando, that came out in 1992. The original Bionic Commando for the NES. Again, the NES version is different from the arcade version. However, this Game Boy version is similar to the NES version. It's as if you took the NES version, tightened the controls, because the person or the team who did the Capcom arcade ports to NES, let's be honest, weren't that great. I mean, we all played them and they were fine for what they were, but they were a little clunky. This game really just fine-tuned the controls, made the graphics better. This would be like if they took the NES game and updated it to make it like a little bit more visually appeasing and make the controls tighter, it'd be literally that. Now, if you're not familiar with Bionic Commando, that's unfortunate, but just to clue you in, you do not have a jump button, you have a kind of claw grappling arm thingy. And that's how you move around. You can move up platforms, you can swing across things. It's going to save you more than once when you start falling into a bottomless pit. You can try to grab onto a light post or something. I've done that a couple of times. I do like Bionic Commando, and it plays great for the Game Boy. Simply called Looney Tunes, another great game by Sunsoft. Sunsoft, not only were they one of the great companies for the NES, but they made some amazing games for Game Boy. So if it says Sunsoft, it might be worth checking out. And this game plays a lot like that Tiny Toons game that we just saw a little bit ago. Great platformer, has a lot of your favorite characters in this game. Different levels with different players or different characters, and it's just simply called Looney Tunes. You wouldn't think it. You'd see it, be like, oh, that's okay, Bugs Bunny game, something like that. Yeah, but it's a great platformer. Don't skip on this. Remember Mr. Do? My goodness. Well, Mr. Do came out for the Game Boy here, and it says start, and there's also a remix. You're like, oh, remix mode. It's just the options. Don't worry about the remix part. If you're not familiar with Mr. Do, a little bit like DigDug. But you have to pick up all the cherries, but the cherries are in groups of 8. So you just grab all of those, but you also kill the enemies. You have this kind of ball that kind of shoots around, in the little hallways and tunnels that you make as you're digging around. I like Mr. Do, and happy to see it on the Game Boy. They did make Star Wars. We had Star Wars for the NES. They also came out for Star Wars for the Game Boy. It's basically the same game. It's not great, but it happened in 92. What did happen in 92, however, is Super Mario Land 2, 6 Golden Coins. I'm here to tell you, this game's one of my favorite Mario games. Not just on the Game Boy. One of my favorite Mario games of every Mario game ever made. It's that good in its own right, for sure. I just think it's a lot of fun. I like the fact, and there's going to be some similarities, of course, with other Mario games. With this one, if you push down instead of ground pounding, you'll do that little twirly twirl that you could do in the Super Nintendo game, which is kind of nice. New abilities like the carrot makes you so you can grow ears. This is the first time you also saw Wario. Wario makes his first appearance in this game. And with the overworld map, you don't have to go like World 1, World 2, World 3. You can just go wherever you want and beat the levels as you see fit to get your 6 golden coins. And classic platforming Mario on the Game Boy. It's worth it. Avenging Spirit, of all games that I wish would make a modern day remake, this would be it. You play this ghost, and that's more than enough. You play this ghost that can inhabit the enemies and use the enemies to your advantage. So right now I'm playing this kind of guy with a gun. Okay, cool. But then I see this person, it's like, ooh, I want to be able to do that. So you can actually leave their body, leave the host body, and inhabit the other body, and then play as that person for a while. And then now you have their ability, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, this person's breathing fire? This enemy's breathing fire? Sounds good to me. I'll jump inside their body, and I'll play as that character for a while. Avenging Spirit, man, I love this game. Bonk's Adventure, love to see it. Came out for the I first played it for TurboGrafx 16, and I thought that was going to be it. I mean, they really made Bonk the TurboGrafx 16 mascot. But they didn't mind the fact that it was Hudson Soft. They didn't mind the fact that it was also on Nintendo, NES, Famicom, and also on the Game Boy too. So if you haven't played Bonk's Adventure, you know, this Game Boy version is not a bad version of it. It's really not. Now, the TurboGrafx 16 version will always be the standard version, but this one's really good. Imagine a timeline where you get 2 Mega Man games in the same year. Well, this is what happened in '92 with Mega Man 3 for the Game Boy coming out as well. And Mega Man 3, just like Mega Man 2, you start with these 4 robot bosses from Mega Man 3, and then the next 4 are from Mega Man 4, because they came out kind of like in between themselves here. But more Mega Man goodness. Can't go wrong with Mega Man. Megalit is the name of this game. Again, we can't all just do only IPs we've heard of. You can check out some of these great puzzle games too. And Megalit, I've looked at it a couple of times. I'm still trying to kind of figure it out, but looks like you just have to get all the pieces so they fit all on the first level, the ground level, to move on to the next stage. And you have to, you know, position things so you're not going to get crushed, of course. You know, Megalit also came out. You know, sometimes you need to have that little extra something else just to discover new games as well. And we also had Tailspin. Tailspin, just like the NES version from Capcom, a similar version for the Game Boy version. Now, Tailspin, one of my favorite Disney afternoon cartoons, but not one of my favorite Capcom Disney games. I like pretty much all the other ones before this one. This one plays fine. You know, it's funny, you have your shoot button, and the other button kind of makes you flip around and go backwards. But interesting to note that we got Tailspin. Now, it's funny, because we had, like, for the Game Boy, DuckTales, DuckTales 2. We also had Darkwing Duck, but we never had the Rescue Rangers games on the Game Boy, which is interesting. But at least we got Tailspin, so that's something. Recently looked at the games that came out in 1991 for the Game Boy. Make sure you check out that video. If you need your Riggs hat, I got those available for sale as well. You can check out my shop links in the description. I believe these ones are on Etsy, but I also have a Shopify, and both of them have the games and merch and stuff I make. Whatever's convenient for you. So check those out, and we'll do Game Boy 93, I'm sure, coming up pretty soon. Thanks for watching.